Okay, we are live now.
Okay, so I see people joining. Welcome, everyone. We'll wait for a couple of more minutes for the full attendance and proceed. Okay, so I think we can start. We will see a few more people joining, but I think they'll catch up. So I think the first things first, quickly introducing myself. I'm Govind. I lead the business operations here in Southeast Asia and Australia. I am based in Singapore office. Good to be interacting with everyone over here today. Um, just to make sure that everyone is aware of who else is on the panel today with me, we have Mario Nicola, who is the head of growth from BukuWarung. We have Jasleen, who's a regional performance marketing lead, 99.co. And then we have Pierre, who's the head of online marketing at StashAway. Welcome, Mario, Jasleen, Pierre. Super excited to be interacting with you today. I'm sure there are lots of learnings and lots of stories that you will be able to share with me and everyone over here joining us. I think also it would be good for everyone to be aware of what this event is all about and who is the sponsor behind Mobile Growth Events. Branch is a sponsor of mobile growth events across the world. So Branch works with about 60,000 apps, mainly to help with product and marketing needs for user experience and measurement and attribution. We are based in California and we have offices around the world. We are located in Singapore as well, and we have a large presence with and relationships with clients and customers who are mainly mobile applications across Southeast Asia market. And mobile growth is a community of mobile developers and marketers and product managers across the world. We are in about 50 cities. We cover about 40,000 members in our community. Pre-COVID times, we are known and we were extremely active in the market, working with many members of ours on meetups and events, closed door events. The main idea for us is to make sure that we promote learning from each other, because learning about mobile and understanding how to succeed in mobile is not as easy. It's not like in web where you could take a course and get it done. Everything is a trial and error method that we need to do. And the only thing that we could succeed is to make sure we constantly learn from each other. This was the idea started back in 2015 in San Francisco with a small meetup, about 20 people. It grew. At some point, we had 500, 600 people coming into each of our events. Now with COVID, we have moved digital as every event did. and we've been constantly working with our members online now, sharing and interacting online instead of offline. So today is one such event. Super glad again meeting everyone, and thanks to Mario, Justine, and Pierre coming over here and sharing your learnings. So we'll start with the questions. I will start with the first question, which is introducing each by yourself. Please tell us who you are more than what I've just shared. A little about what you do every day. Maybe we'll start with Mario.
Yeah, thanks, Govin. Super excited to be here. Hi, everyone. My name is Mario, Head of Growth at BukuWarung. So for you guys who haven't heard about BukuWarung, so we provide a simple bookkeeping and accounting solution for micro and small businesses across Indonesia. We started less than 12 months ago. Right now, we have more than 1.5 million registered business in our service. About me, myself, I spent my 10 years in tech industry as product manager. So this is actually my first ever like official non-product related position. But this is like, I think the approach that I use in focusing on user growth in BukuWarung is actually focusing also on delivering the best product experience, because in terms of growth, the best growth engine there is the word of mouth and the referral coming from user who love the product.
Thank you, Mario. Justine?
Take it away.
Okay, hi everyone. So my name is Jesslyn. So I lead the regional performance marketing team at 99 Group, which consists on a couple of brands. So we are mainly in Singapore and Indonesia. In Singapore, we have 99.co, iProperty Singapore, as well as most recently SRX. And in Indonesia, we have 99 ID as well as Rumah 123. So we are a property portal, for those who don't know, or marketplace. So what we do is really to enable property seekers with the right technology when they are searching for their home, be it whether you are renting or you are buying a home. So yes, really excited to be here today.
Thank you, Justine. Pierre?
Everyone, very excited to be here as well. My name is Pierre, and I currently am heading the online marketing in StashAway. For those of you who don't know StashAway, StashAway is a digital wealth manager based in Singapore, which aims to empower everyone to build long-term wealth. So whereas before, people, if they want to invest, they have to go to a bank and meet with relationship managers and maybe have like a huge amount of money to start investing, we try to help everyone to invest. We are currently licensed in Singapore and Malaysia, and very recently in UAE as well. But we are actually accepting people from all regions. So if you want to start investing, you know that StashAway is there. On a day-to-day basis, I am responsible for the customer acquisitions in StashAway, so through various digital marketing channels such as Facebook and Google. But I as well am responsible for the customer retention through CRM strategies. Before StashAway, I also worked at Groupon and Zalora, where I manage the various digital marketing channel. So very excited to have the discussions today with all these people.
Thank you, Pierre. I think we can straight away get into icebreaker. I think this is crucial, so we know more about how you think. What's one unexpected app that you downloaded and have been using more frequently since the lockdown? This is something that you have never expected that you would download at some point, but you did, and only because of lockdown. And please also share how did they acquire you as a user?
Who should start?
Anyone?
Okay, let me start. For me, it's pretty straightforward. It's Google Fit. So, lockdown means staying at home. And then I start realizing that I'm getting like heavier day to day. So there's supposed to be a tool to maintain and monitor this. I think it's also, there's a lot of content on YouTube or wherever like I go. There's, how to be healthy on lockdown, and all this content, I think, playing a big part in my life to download the Google Fit. Actually, there are several apps that I use at the same time, but Google Fit is the one because it's connected to the smartwatch and everything. So I start monitoring every metrics happening like inside me. And I've been a power user since the first day of lockdown.
Totally can relate to you.
I can go next. So I think in Singapore, we had circuit breaker for about 2 months, which means we can't really go out except to buy food. For me, I was really bored, in terms of food choices. So what I did was almost every day I ordered grain. I don't know, you guys know grain. And I think what's interesting is prior to lockdown, I don't think they have an app. So because of circuit breaker, they created an app to allow users to book food in advance or whatnot and delivery. And the interesting thing was during that 2 months, Singaporeans love bubble tea. So they had like this partnership with Koi and everyone went crazy. So there was this week during circuit breaker whereby I think they were the top 10 downloaded apps in Singapore. So that was one. I think how they acquire is really because they were able to quickly turn around during the period of time to develop the app within a short time, and to kind of also reach out to many users on social media as well, and also word of mouth as people share about them having a partnership with key brands that Singaporeans love to consume.
It's great.
I'll go next. Actually, I'm in the same group as Mario. During the lockdown here in Singapore, I feel getting heavier week by week. And then at the same time, also we don't really cook as often in Singapore before, right? So we ordered quite a lot of food. But now because going outside was quite, risky, right? So and then actually ordering from GrabFood is super expensive, right? So I actually started cooking at home, and I'm actually starting to use this app called MyFitnessPal actually to help me track my calories and whatever I eat, right? So previously, when I used to, go to the office every day, I used to eat whatever I want, in the hawker, like, the wonton noodles and all those unhealthy stuff. But I feel like since lockdown, I've becoming much, much healthier. I cook my own stuff and I use MyFitnessPal to track all my calories intake. Yeah. So interesting that these lockdowns actually makes everyone a little bit healthier, hopefully.
That's great. That's great. Thank you for sharing, everyone. So the next question I have is common. Anyone can jump in and answer. We all have different views on the strategies of acquiring a user or of retaining a user, and completely different understanding of user behavior in general. So can you? It's going to be very interesting for us to know from each of you as to what is it that a successful growth strategy mean to you, or if you can share any such strategy that you have deployed, that'd be great.
Yeah, I can go first. I think when it comes to growth strategies, I think first of all, for us, we in 99 we are very much like growth driven in a way that we usually set our OKRs and KPIs. So from a traffic acquisition growth standpoint, we usually have a target in mind in terms of what is the market share that we want to gain within the market. So we estimate the demand and the traffic and we project them to split according to the web and the app. Because the way we will acquire users across two platforms, the two channels are different. And then we work backwards on that to then set like a specific CPA that we are willing to pay across the different channels. So a lot of what we do, drive users, we do drive a lot of users from the web to the app. So for instance, a way that we can do it would be that if we identify a certain level of engagement of users on the web, we usually drive them to the app because we realize that a lot of our users are a lot more engaged on the app. They convert a lot more than users on the web. So for example, if let's say users are searching for home in Orchard area in Singapore, the next time they come back, we kind of personalize the way that they engage on the portal, and we drive them to the app or whatnot, like using in-app in-web banners, etc., and then drive them to the app. But a lot of how we grow relates to understanding the target audience. So it also would help us to kind of firm up which channels and which touch point within our product and our property search journey that is best to acquire various segments of users across the board. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll go next, I guess. So yeah, in general, I'm quite similar to how Jaslyn manages their the strategies across acquiring users, right? But for us, we believe that the most important thing is always coming to your customers. So always think about your customers when you're thinking about your own business growth, right? So for example, if we are considering a new campaigns or a new product, right, we also consider what does it means for our customers, right? Will it help them, or is it still in line with our mission statement that we have to benefit the customers, right? And so when we think about the campaigns to, let's say, push, let's say, a new products or a new features in the product, right? We'll have to ask ourselves, right? How is our customers going to find our product and our features, right? What are their considerations? What are they thinking when they actually see the product? And then from there, we can craft the messagings, the right approach to actually promote this to our customers. Right? So I believe, like every other big companies, that our customer centric is the best approach to growing the business, right? This is, has been done and tested by Apples and Amazons.
Yeah, actually, totally in line with what Jaslyn and Pierre said. So really thinking from our customers' perspective is what works very well. For in our case, our customers mostly is the micro businesses, where they are actually very busy during the day tending their shops, and some of them is actually not only tending shops, but for those who have shops in their home, so they do all the home stuff, taking care of children and then tending shops at the same time. So understanding their behavior from hours to hours, what time they're actually active on the product, and which channel do they consume the content most of the time. So for example, during the pandemic situation, where there's a lot of uncertainty going on in this space for micro businesses, they're actually try to look up for the news regarding the government subsidy, the whatever program they can join to help their growing their business, or get whatever funding that the government provide for the micro businesses. So we're kind of riding the wave of the pandemic. We create a lot of content and tips related to this kind of situation. That's where we get also a lot of traffic coming into the website, and then we convert them into the app. And then because we understand their behavior, so we shape the product to optimize on, they usually open their shop in the morning and write down all the financial statement at the evening. So that's where we, we send our push notification, we send our tips on, how to use a specific feature, and we see this really helps. Also on top of the and this strategy, as actually we also blanketed into the digital acquisition. So Facebook, Google type of content and ads that we do is also very similar to kind of tips that we provide in our blog.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So my next question is to Jaslyn. 2020 has been a year of innovation. We all know that only innovation and experimentation worked. This is the first time that we're all experiencing any such, and especially for your industry, it must have been very different. So what I want to know, and I'm sure everyone would be curious to know as well, is that what are these experiments that you've run, and what are your learnings that you think you will carry forward to the next year as well, now that you've actually seen, because you wouldn't have done any of these without the pandemic?
Yeah. Okay. So I think one thing that we did, I think for us in terms of campaigns and app acquisition, it is one of the key goals for us within the team. So we also constantly look out in terms of adopting new channels. So probably in during the circuit breaker period, of course, did hit us for a bit, because property viewing can't happen. So even if the leads are being delivered, many of times the the viewing can't happen. So what we did was, within the product itself, we kind of developed quickly a video viewing feature that allows viewing of the property via video for consumers. But again, because it is still kind of like a heavy investment, it's one of the more important milestones that everyone will go through within their lifetime. So that was something that we quickly developed, so that we don't lose the engagement with the users. From experiment standpoint, I think a lot of how we drive app acquisition is via, like your Google and Facebook, your UAC. But the key and linking that to our key business goals is really to drive as many leads as possible for our agents. So we try to kind of link our app acquisitions. If you have a limited budget during that time, you try and optimize and streamline towards the key things that you want to optimize for. So what we did at that time was to ensure that while we acquire users via the app, we optimize throughout the entire user journey funnel. For example, instead of getting users to drive an app install, we set the objective to acquire users that have higher likelihood to convert. So that allows us to kind of achieve two goals with an optimal cost. And we do this by ensuring that we have all the app events tracking set up properly throughout the funnel. In this way, we can tweak the way that our campaign messaging is as we move people from different parts of the funnels. So for example, for users that are new to the portal, we may not expect them to make a conversion or inquire on a listing, but what we do is to maybe optimize them to do an in-app action, which is maybe to search on our portal. So that's one key thing that we did. And this year particularly, we were cracking our brains to think of more organic ways to grow the user base. So we realized that among our web traffic, 80% of them are on the mobile web. So that remains as a key channel for us to drive users to the app. So we actually created a bunch of varied organic banners, customized banners that drive users to download the app. So this has helped us a lot in terms of acquiring app users. And one thing we kind of experimented was also the importance of the ASO portion on your app store. Your landing page essentially is kind of like your website landing page, but we realized that many people also neglected them. So we did many of this optimization to overall, innovate and experiment the way that we do campaigns to bring up our conversion rates. Yeah.
Thank you, Gisli. Pierre, Mario, if you have any thoughts on innovation or experimentation in the year, please share as well.
Yep. So I think in general, as like Justin said, I believe the incumbent channels like Facebook and Google are still the biggest part of the budget spender in the marketing strategies. But we have actually tested like a few other channels as well. So for example, Apple Search Ads is something that is quite new in the region, right? And we find it actually pretty performing for us, right? We have always known that iOS users tend to have slightly better quality than the Android users. That's where it makes sense to test a new ways to target people, right? So this, as similar to what Justin said, a lot of people actually ignored ASO, right? But this even is better than ASO, right? Because it appears on top of the listing, and you can appear on top of your competitors as well, right? What you just need to be careful is Apple Search Ads is kind of, let's say, more traditionals or backward technologies compared to like Facebook and Google. So they don't have as much options as Google and Facebook have, right? So yeah. And then for us, the other things that we also learned in 2020 is even though we have the mobile web as well as the app, right? But we see that the mobile web has very bad performance for us, right? So even if you try to create a campaigns that land people into the mobile web, for example, the conversion rate was horrible for us. So therefore, we tried to find different ways to get people to go to the app directly, right? So, all the different channels, we focus more of our budgets on getting people to install the app, right? And therefore, a few upcoming channels that we think can be interesting to us, for example, the native channel Outbrains recently also have an app install campaign, for example. That's probably something that we are keen on testing as well.
Yeah, so agree. Experimentation is like the keyword we have in the company. So we do experiment almost on like everything that we can do. So app creative, platform, product features, in-app messages, push notification, colors, design, everything we do experiment to get the incremental increase week to week. But one thing that I think that is also like very interesting that happening recently is the rise of TikTok, right? So TikTok is, I think for Jaslyn and Pierre, I think maybe you guys did an experiment in TikTok and you understand the completely different behavior coming from the TikTok users. So, all this like ad creative that working very well on Facebook and Google might not work at all at TikTok. And some creative that is really not related to whatever product or service that we provide might work super well on TikTok. So there's a big learning happening in TikTok. And also it's fun because of this, uncertain situation on what kind of like user behavior coming from TikTok that we can define. The room to do experiments is like very big. We are doing like 7 to 12 experiments per week on TikTok, actually. So yeah, totally at the same page with both of you guys.
TikTok is a good addition to the world of ads. I think two interesting points that you mentioned: Apple search ads, probably more relevant to Singapore because that's where the iOS users are, and TikTok more of other markets in Southeast Asia. Thank you for sharing your thoughts on that. Next question is to Mario. I think one of the things that would be really interesting, Mario, actually, because you are in that type of a business where, the users are just getting into the world of digital and trying to adopt to the technology in their day-to-day lives. For example, a shopkeeper who's using your app probably never used the technology earlier. What are you doing to educate or even make sure that they're aware of a product like yours?
Exactly. So this is where the big challenge for a product like BukuWarung. So you have to strike the right balance between functionality, modern design, cool features with the user needs. Our user is not a tech savvy, obviously, and if we do like provide them with these high tech features and AR or VR or something, they will definitely leave the product. So a room to introduce something new is very limited. In a way, of this new thing might be a new thing in this technology might be a very how do you say, a very intimidating feature for the new users. What new for our target market might be an old technology, an old feature, and it applies everywhere. So not only in the product capability, not only on the product features, but also in the kind of the creative and messaging that we deliver to this target market. So instead of, sometimes you try to hop on the whatever trendy thing happening right now to get the attention of the market. But what we do is we need to observe a layer deeper, because what trending in the mass market and what trending in this segment is totally different. And that's where we should ride the wave. So for example, right now there's a COVID situation where everything is all about safety and health. While what trending in the segment that we target is the government subsidy. So something that is not very, people around us not very aware and really not looking for the business subsidy, but this is what like super trending. This has become a meme for them. So understanding the needs for this totally unique target market. And it's exciting period because I think we are one of the first player who target this specific segment.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, Mario. So, Pierre, I have a very interesting question. The reason why I say interesting is that you spoke about Apple search ads. So it's related. So let's talk a bit about IDFA, the announcement that was made a few months ago, and that's going to be live very soon. And how is that impact? What have you done to be ready to embrace it?
Yep. So that's a very interesting topic, which might change the face of industry as a whole, right? So for those of you who are not aware what IDFA is, so essentially IDFA is an identifier that Apple uses and shares around different apps, right, to understand who's this particular customer is, right? So it's used in almost everywhere, like marketing attributions, for retargetings, right, for ad networks to serve their ads and whatever. Right. So with the privacy concern of Apple and they're removing IDFA, the way that you do your attributions needs to change. Right. So previously, I know that, say, for example, someone comes from Facebook, installs my apps, right, registers and deposit money to us. Therefore, I can attribute it exactly to Facebook, for example. But now in the futures, I will not be able to do so. right? There is this new feature from Apple called SK Ad Networks, which just tells you someone does something, but not exactly sure what that something is and the value of that, right? So luckily, Branch here helps us with a lot of resources, right? So there is like this page that Branch has on the change on iOS 4. If you are active on mobile as well as iOS as your biggest part of your audience, you should check that out. So for now, we are implementing the new Branch SDKs that will help us prepare for the changes, right? So basically changing the tracking using the SK Ad Network as well. And then from there, what happened is we'll need to test, right? To understand whether these new ways to track still help us understand the audience performance from the iOS, right? And then from there, perhaps we should find different ways to understand the iOS customers' performance as a whole, right? So basically, let's say mapping how much you spend on iOS to, let's say, the share of iOS audience inside your app, right? And then see whether you can still make out something from there. Because otherwise, right now, let's say I know 50% of my audience come from iOS and they're generating this certain amount, right? If I'm losing that next year, right, how can I justify to the management, right, that I'm spending this amount of money and then making returns.
Makes sense. Thank you for sharing that, Pierre. So I'm going to ask a question that's relevant for everyone. So please feel free to jump in and answer. So when you look at the data that between app and web users, what are the trends that you noticed during this period? And everyone, of course, is well aware that app has a better, conversion rate of your businesses, and people are going to spend more time in apps. But there should definitely be a balance between the two, because web has more discovery. Your brand can be discovered more on the web. So based on that, can you share some of your thoughts of your users traveling between web and app?
Yeah, so I think for us in 99, conversion rates on web and app is very different. So I'm not sure if it's just for the property industry. So looking forward to hear what the rest share. But for us, I think rather than only looking at conversions, we look and monitor closely at how many conversions each unique inquirer actually makes on our portal. So for instance, on the web, users inquire average maybe 3 to 5 times within a period of time. And on the app, they can inquire 6 to 10 times. So we are looking at 2 to 3x more conversions that each users take whenever they are on the portal. So task for us, when it then comes back to ROI driven, then for us to acquire app users versus a web user, then of course the app user is valued a lot higher. So sometimes when we try to optimize the campaigns, we do assign certain values, etc. For maybe for app users, we are willing to pay a lot higher for an app user to come in. But the tricky thing for property is that the journey is very long, and we have rent users and sale users. So we can have the users on the app every day if this person is looking for a place to rent or buy at that moment. Sometimes it takes 3 months, sometimes it takes slightly over a year. So that which is why the when Govin talks about the brand building process, and users usually land on the web, it's really true for us. It is a constant process that we have to build on, because when usually if someone finds a home, they no longer be engaged on the app for a long time. So, we are talking about many years. So it's very different from other industries. So that's one thing we usually consider as well. But across the board, both web and app users are important for us. It's just the intent and the quality of the conversions. App has a slightly higher one, but to acquire long-term traffic growth, web is still the key, the first channel touch point we use to acquire users.
Very good to know. Thank you, Jesslyn. Anyone else on the same thought?
Yeah, so I'm not sure how conversion rate is for Justin, but for us, it's slightly different. So when people said the conversion rate on mobile actually is much better than the web, right? It's actually the reverse for us, right? So I don't know, probably audience have some perceptions that if you are a financial app, right, you are not legit enough, right? So they prefer to transact or make a deposit on the web actually. So for us, we see actually conversion rate higher on the website rather than the app. but the converse actually happens for the reverse actually happens for the cost, right? Right now, if you see all the different marketing channels, right, probably like 90 to 95% of the traffic is actually on mobile, right? And given that you know the experience in mobile app is usually just much better than web, right? It is much cheaper actually to acquire users on mobile rather than the web, right? So all in all, we given the conversion rate as well as the cost, it's actually eventually cheaper to acquire customers on the app for us, right? So we constantly try to shift around budgets to see where we can gain the maximum efficiencies of our campaigns.
Thank you. I'll move ahead to another question. Uh, I think Mario maybe would love to hear. I think from your perspective, because you spoke about TikTok and you spoke about some of the ad campaigns as well. So, how do you look at user engagement between paid and organic campaigns? What type of content has worked well for you, and are there any particular channels that you look into when talking about organic?
Yeah. So I think for service like bookkeeping and accounting, we see way better engagement happening from coming from organic because the user intention is there, right? They have the needs, maybe they have problem tracking their finances. So right away when they download the app, they start recording all their transactions, even without going through the tutorial phase. They just start recording their expenses, income, and all the related stuff. But for the challenges for acquiring the digital users, right? Maybe they only have the half the intention that these organic users have. So a lot of like onboarding and tutorial that's specifically designed for each and specific ads that we do have to be like very on point. So for example, we have three main features in our product, which is to record your customer debt, and then record your income and expense, and do a payment, online payment. So for the campaign that focusing on don't let your customer take away your money, use our product and everything. The journey they encounter when they download the app is we tell them the benefit of first the message of you if you use this feature, there's a high possibility that your customer that get paid on time. Second is this is how you use it. And we design this journey based on what creative that they come with. And then for the organic one, I think it's really we always see like around 95 to 100% rate of closing down the tutorial page and they start using. Pretty much because we're quite active on small pocket of communities in Indonesia. And this is where they teach each other on how to use like our feature, and this is where we observe the most organic traffic coming from.
Okay. Anyone else want to go and answer to that question? Because organic is, I remember when we were just getting into the lockdown, there was anyways a demand for a lot of companies which are in food delivery and OTT space where they have done a lot of organic campaigns. Were you in your industry? Were you also working on any of the organic campaigns?
Yeah, so I think just now I briefly mentioned we rely a lot on the in-web and in-app, the own product itself to kind of re-engage the users. That has been really, really helpful for us. For the difference in terms of organic and paid users, I mean, of course, organic users tend to have a higher quality. If we look at even paid channels, channels like your SEM, your search channels, those are the channels that we usually have uh, it even though higher CPA costs, but usually better quality. But of course, for us in this industry, the quality of the leads is always, something that's hard to measure. So I guess the first step for any marketers out there would be that across whether is it your organic channels, your paid channels, and all the different platforms that you use, it's important to kind of pipe it into a single platform so you are able to see these users that are coming in from all your different channels, how many conversions do they actually make, or maybe you realize that this particular channel is not efficient for you when it comes to driving in-app conversions, but they're just good from a upper funnel perspective. So yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, sorry. One more thing, just want to chime with Jaslyn as well. I think the important part is not to see them in a vacuum of just paid or organic, right? Because what we've realized as well here in StashAway is a lot of your paid ads actually eventually brings organic traffic down the line, right? Especially for like a high consideration product like StashAway, where it takes a long time for people to think about when they want to invest. And I assume it's kind of the same as well for Jaslyn in 99.co, because it takes a long time for people to buy a house, right? So they will see your ads maybe today, maybe tomorrow, and they come back through your organic channels maybe like a year down the line, right? And that's why it's also for us, it's very important. Like for us, organic means that we show our face to our customers, right? And that's why we actually used to do a lot of seminar before the lockdown period. Right now, we actually do a webinar, and we do at least one webinar a week, right, to help to explain what our product is, because it takes a lot of concentrations to promote the product, but at the same time, it's an avenue for people to ask us questions, right? So that's where most of the organic comes from.
Thank you. Before we move into one final question, which is more generic, I want to ask one question related to the campaigns so that we close that topic. Is of course Google and Facebook. Um, what are you seeing? I mean, you also mentioned about TikTok, Mario, and you mentioned Apple search ads. Does that mean your investments are going down on Facebook and Google? How are you treating those two platforms, which have been the market leaders for years now?
Yep. For us, actually, I mentioned earlier that incumbent channels such as Facebook and Google is still the top performing channel for us, right? So right now, unfortunately, Apple Search Ads is not able yet to perform as well, or not as well, actually, more of the traffic that they can offer, right? So there is a limit to the traffic that Apple Search Ads can offer, because it's just people searching on their app, on their Apple store. Right? It's not like Facebook, where you can just basically target everyone who's active on Facebook. Right? In terms of optimizations, what I've learned this year is it's actually like Google and Facebook is getting really, really good with their machine learning. Right? So Jaslyn earlier mentioned about giving the right objective to Google and Facebook. That's what we've been learning throughout this year as well. So, I remember when I used to do online marketing by myself around 6-7 years ago, we used to create a lot of ad sets in Facebook, where each ad set is like a very small audience, for example, right? But, thankfully, those days are long gone, actually. Now what we do is we send Facebook and Google's the events that are important for us, ideally also with the value as well, right? And we let them optimize based on that value. Right, so now the importance is working together with the development teams, right, to actually be able to pass all this correct event and their correct value to their Facebook and Google, and systematically testing, right, which events actually give us eventually the best bottom line, right? Because sometimes there's like, the quirk of, let's say, the machine learning, for example, you need enough budget, or maybe a certain events eventually don't give you the best bottom line. So these are the things that we have been testing throughout this year.
Yeah. For us, I mean, Google, I agree with Pierre as well. Google and Facebook are our biggest channels. But interestingly enough, the last, maybe in 2020, we actually reduced our budget on Facebook. And that's because the Google UAC campaigns have been really giving us good, not just cost per install, but also cost per action, cost per acquisition, on the other in-app in-app events that we are trying to optimize for. We've started also using Apple's store ads in the last 3 months or so. But yeah, I think like what Pierre has went through, it's really hard to scale the budget because they may not have enough inventories or so. So, and also it really your ad only can serve upon certain keyword search. So I think in terms of massive app acquisition, the key channels are still your Google and Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the same with the rest of the guys. Facebook and Google still the main channel where we do our acquisition. But interestingly, with TikTok, I think we should not underestimate like TikTok, because ever since they introduced the advertising capability, they've been coming out with like new features like like every 2 weeks or months. So, and they become better and better, and they become also like more efficient month to month, and they really serious about their investment in doing this ads business. And it's still the early age of TikTok, right? I cannot really imagine like how the product the TikTok product itself will change in the future. How will they understand their user behavior in the next year or two? Because right now everything is still on the you consume this 15-second videos and then you swipe. But I'm pretty sure like with the kind of capability that they're designing for the advertisement, they might introduce something new that they can get like they can understand their user quality better. And also I think the kind of uh, during this COVID period, one thing I found very interesting is these three players, right? They really provide really great support to all the advertisers in keep on giving the tips and education and findings and research around the market situation during COVID. For this one, especially TikTok, I know because they're bringing like a lot of experts coming into the Indonesia market to actually make it big, and we actually see the result. So previously, I think a half part of this year, we are not really spending that much, but now it become like one of the main avenue to get users in Indonesia. Yeah.
Good insight on TikTok. TikTok should thank you for being their evangelist. Last question, more common. What is that one learning that you've had this year? I think just one learning throughout the year. We've gone through tough times. We're seeing things are slowly getting back on track in some regions. So, what is that one learning that you've had, and you think that you're going to take it to next year?
I think the key thing that I personally have learned is really the agility to innovate and develop and adapt during this period of time. Launching features that at a point of time, help us to engage with our users more, help users to search for better property, and also with COVID this year, many companies, I believe, have to do cost optimization. The market essentially just went down, right? So it forces, I believe, everyone here to streamline and focus, to relook at budget allocation, to focus a lot more on ROI-driven campaigns. So even I think during circuit breaker, of course, we did bring down our spend overall from a paid acquisition standpoint. But the interesting thing is that our conversions went up even more surprisingly because our CPA has improved like close to 5x because competition is lower, right? So the key learning here is really opportunity, taking the opportunity at the right time to make certain decisions that you will never know that it's better for the business overall. So I think that's one thing that I've learned, to really the agility portion as well as the opportunity part of it.
Thank you.
Yep. I think for me, what I have really learned so much this year is the capability of machine learning of Google and Facebook, right? So as my previous comment, right, it is in your best interest to try to adapt to this, right? Because one, it really cuts the cost on your end of manpower, right? We have such a lean team in StashAway, right, that you can't really run like a lot of campaigns anymore, right? So just by tapping into their machine learning capabilities, sending them the right events, right? At the same time, testing creative. I think creative is also very important here because eventually, no matter what kind of optimizations that you've done, creative is the one thing that your customers, your audience will see, right? So cracking on getting an important, good creative out there is very important.
Yeah, the biggest learning for me is understanding how pandemic really changed the whole scene of the user situation. In January, February, everything's still the same like last year. Nothing changed that much. But since the pandemic, what happened in Indonesia, there's a lot of like people in their house, the housewife, the people who got laid off because of the pandemic, they start their own business, and we see like this small online businesses popping up on Instagram, on Facebook like crazy. There are like millions and millions of users trying to survive. It's either surviving, or actually they found the right timing to to finally do the jump, starting their own business. But it's happening like quite significant. So there will be like definitely different kind of game for next year with the rise of these online sellers for Indonesia. So definitely we need to rethink the whole strategy for next year. What kind of messaging, spending, the whole like prices for CPI, CPA will be different next year. And not only because the e-commerce is getting bigger and spending also bigger, but these small businesses, the micro businesses with 50, 100 customers, they also start spending digitally. So in Indonesia, if you go through Instagram right now, there are tons of ads of oh, we are now giving you online classes to do digital marketing like super cheap, and people actually signing up. So next year will be like very crowded space for advertising.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think next year is when we'll actually know if it's going to help the economy or not. But great to see. I'm pretty sure that there will be multi-million-dollar business popping out of pandemic, because innovation is where there is problem. Thank you so much for covering that piece. Thank you, Mario, and thank you everyone for your valuable guidance, suggestions, sharing your learnings and stories. Now let's check some of the questions that we got from audience, and we actually have a couple of them. Please feel free to check in your sections and answer, but I'll start with one, which is, can you share how to keep user retention rate as high as possible for a mobile app?
User retention rate. I think we can't deny that if a user is willing to download the app, the engagement rate is definitely much higher than on the web. But I think the thing that we can do on the web is really to create like this seamless experience of what, when they are on the web and when they go to the web, they do receive they do receive the kind of the similar experience. I think what most companies kind of do not prioritize is the way that they develop their product on the app as well as on the web. So most of the time, sometimes it can be quite different. So in order to keep the user retention rate high on the on both of these platforms and on app itself, I think a lot of it requires re-engagement. So for example, if this for example, we do set up like this entire spider web of notifications that we do send at different touch points. So for example, if a user have searched for property in a particular area but they have not inquired, we will actually send like a notification. The next time they are back on the app, we will actually input, were you searching for a home in a particular area? And then we land them onto the direct landing page. So I think sort of engagement related stuff will help you to drive up your retention rate on the mobile app. Yeah.
Thank you. One more question, if I understood this right. With a high consideration product, how does one financially justify low conversion rate for paid channels?
I think I can take these questions because it's what we've been experiencing every day, right? So investment is a high consideration product, right? So I think the most important thing is to really talk with your senior managements, right? To check what the expectation is, right? Obviously, you will not be able to treat like a paid marketing in investment company the same as it in e-commerce, right? For example, because e-commerce is slightly easier. You see the product, you like it, you buy it, right? Whereas, if you see an ads from investment platforms, you will think about it for maybe a few months, right? So so basically managing the expectations with the managements, plus finding out ways, to not see them in vacuum, right? So basically, this is where attribution models comes in, right? You need to be able to track all the interactions of your customers, right? Ideally with their user IDs, right? Whether they are coming back from organic, whether they are coming back from paid channels, right? And from there, if you have a proper attribution models, you should be able to see that, let's say, even if paid marketing has a low conversion rate, but it may be giving you a lot of upper funnel traffic, right? So basically kick-offing the consideration part of your customers. And therefore, from there, you can change your strategies, right? Instead of fully focusing on conversions, right? You bring it up the funnel, right? To get people to know your product and to consider your product.
This is for BukuWarung. Mario, is TikTok able to get quality leads? Just wondering if there's a mismatch in the users BukuWarung would like to acquire and TikTok users, which is mostly youth. A fair question. Or is it TikTok used other segments of marketing funnel at BukuWarung?
So in TikTok, you can actually target user based on their age. Also, that the capability is there. As for quality, actually, it's pretty much around the same quality with like Google ads. So, but I think that the tricky part, right? Because this is something new and the kind of content and experience they provide in the TikTok app itself is very unique. You cannot really measure what quality creative that you provide that bring that good quality users coming from TikTok. Right now, it's kind of like jackpot and guessing like what kind. It's a guessing game. The funnier and the funnier and the sexier the ads is, it will bring more user with high chance of 50% of them actually really good quality. But when you try to be super on point with your product, right, describing your product with like very specific like feature wording and everything, people tends to just swipe away that content and not really interacting or try to download your service. So it's still in the learning period. Also for other advertisers that doing ads on TikTok. So this is something that we are put our eyes very close with. What kind of capability they should come up to help us laser focus on targeting the user segment that we want.
So the ad should look like a TikTok video, basically.
Correct.
Okay. Specific to your business models, how well are referral programs working for you in terms of acquiring newer customers, better engagement, or retention of users? Anyone working on a referral program?
So for 99, I think this year, particularly, we've engaged with a lot of more affiliate partners, doing affiliate marketing. Sometimes barter trade in terms of certain brands that may have relevant traffic or relevant user base. So for 99, for example, for property, we do work with your home and furnishing partners to tap on each other's target audience, and we kind of retarget users from there, from the funnel. Sometimes your insurance partners, your credit card partners in the financial sector. I think it's up and coming, especially this year. We've engaged in a lot more conversations because we also realized that some of these partners do have already reduced their marketing budget. So using this, it's a good way of other than using the key channels that you have as well as your own channels, or the kind of digital marketing channels. It is a good way to grow your user base out of what you usually can target. So definitely, I think referral programs is something that everyone should try, but maybe start with more relating kind of brands to what you offer. That will help you a lot. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else on the same question?
Sorry, just to clarify, referral program as in your users referring their friends, or is it like more of an affiliate? Right? Because for us, if it's a referral programs, then definitely it's the most important in our business, right? Because what else could be the better marketing than your friend telling you that you have a good performance in StashAway, right? So yes, definitely referral program is the key to growing our business. Right? But at the same time, referral programs can be pretty volatile for us because it is very dependent on the seasonality of the market. Right? So for example, we noticed that, when market goes down, nobody wants to talk about investment, right? Because they are unfortunately losing money, right? So not a lot of people will refer their friends.
Thank you. So thank you so much everyone for joining today. So before we move ahead and get on with the work, just wanted to quickly announce that we are accepting Mobile Growth Awards nominations. It's our first award ceremony that we are going to be doing on the 11th December at midnight. That's the deadline. Sorry for the misinformation there. So we have until 11th, you can submit the best campaigns that you have noticed. I think this is going to be very interesting because every time we go and check any particular campaign, we really think that's very innovative, but we don't know what to do after that. We just share in our Slack channels and just leave it at it. We just wanted to make sure that we reward those campaigns that are extremely creative and also has amazing conversion rates. So please recommend the campaigns that you think deserve recognition. And the deadline is until 11th December midnight. Thank you for joining again. Hope to see you soon again.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Thank you, everyone.